Welcome to What Truly Matters. Have you ever held on to something so tightly that your hands started to hurt? Maybe it was a relationship that had run its course. Maybe it was a dream that no longer fit who you'd become. Or maybe it was anger, resentment, a memory that wouldn't stop replaying in your mind. We hold on because we think that letting go means losing. We hold on because we're afraid of what will happen if we open our hands and release what we've been clinging to for so long. But here's what I've learned and what I want to share with you today. Sometimes the very thing we're holding on to so tightly is the thing that's holding us back. Sometimes the weight we carry isn't meant to be ours. And sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply let go. Today, I want to tell you a story. It's a story about a woman named Claire, about loss and love, about the invisible chains we wear, and about the moment when she finally understood that holding on was costing her everything. This is a story about the power of letting go, not as an act of giving up, but as an act of profound courage and self-love. So settle in, take a breath, and let me take you on a journey that might just change the way you see your own life. Claire was 38 years old when her mother died. It wasn't sudden. Cancer never really is. Not when you watch it slowly take someone you love, piece by piece, day by day. But even though she'd had months to prepare, even though she'd said goodbye 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways, when the moment finally came, Claire felt like the ground had been ripped out from under her. Her mother, Margaret, had been more than a parent. She'd been Claire's best friend, her confidant, the person who knew every version of Claire that had ever existed. Margaret had held Claire when she was a colicky baby. She'd cheered at every school play, even the terrible ones. She'd stayed up late helping Claire study for exams. And later, she'd been there through Claire's divorce, through the miscarriage that had nearly broken her, through every dark moment when Claire wasn't sure she could go on. And now she was gone. The funeral was beautiful. Everyone said so. People told Claire how strong she was, how well she was handling everything. But Claire wasn't handling anything. She was just going through the motions, doing what was expected, saying the right things, wearing the right clothes, accepting casseroles from neighbors who didn't know what else to do. What no one knew was that Claire had taken something from her mother's house. In the weeks after the funeral, when she was supposed to be sorting through her mother's belongings, donating clothes, deciding what to keep and what to let go of, Claire had found herself unable to part with anything. Every object held a memory. Every photograph was sacred. But there was one thing in particular that Claire couldn't leave behind. Her mother's cardigan. It was navy blue, soft from years of washing, with wooden buttons and pockets that sagged slightly from being stuffed with tissues and reading glasses. It smelled like her mother, like lavender and vanilla and home. Claire took that cardigan and she wore it every single day. She wore it to work under her blazer. She wore it at home in the evenings. She wore it to bed, wrapping it around herself like armor, like a shield against the grief that threatened to swallow her whole. Months passed, then a year, then two. Claire's life continued. She went to work. She smiled at the appropriate times. She went through the rhythms of existing, but she never took off the cardigan. Friends started to notice. Her sister Emily tried to talk to her about it. Claire, Emily said gently one afternoon over coffee, maybe it's time to, maybe wash it or put it away for a while. Claire's response was immediate and sharp. Why would I do that? It's been 2 years, and I worry that holding on to it like this, wearing it every single day, I worry that you're not really moving forward. Moving forward? Claire's voice cracked. Moving forward to what, Emily? To a life without Mum? To forgetting her? That's not what I mean, Emily said softly. You know that's not what I mean. But Claire did know. Deep down, in the part of herself she didn't want to look at, she knew. The cardigan had become more than a piece of clothing. It had become a chain. A way to stay connected, yes, but also a way to stay stuck. As long as she wore it, as long as she kept that physical piece of her mother close, she didn't have to face the full weight of her absence. The cardigan became a symbol of something larger. All the things Claire was holding on to. The guilt she felt for not being there the exact moment her mother died. She'd stepped out to get coffee just for 5 minutes. The anger she had toward the doctors who couldn't save her. The regret over every argument they'd ever had, every time she'd been impatient or dismissive or too busy to call. The fear that if she let go of the grief, she'd be letting go of her mother entirely. One evening, almost 3 years after her mother's death, Claire was sitting alone in her apartment, wearing the cardigan as always, scrolling mindlessly through old photos on her phone. She came across a video she'd forgotten she had. Her mother at Claire's 35th birthday party, laughing at something someone had said, her eyes bright and alive. Claire played it again. And again. And on the 4th time, she really listened to what her mother was saying in the video. Someone off camera had asked Margaret what advice she'd give to Claire for her next year of life. Margaret had smiled, that knowing smile that only mothers have, and she'd said, I'd tell her to hold on to what matters, but not so tight that she can't receive what's coming next. Life is about opening your hands, sweetheart. Opening your hands and trusting. Claire felt something crack open inside her chest. She looked down at the cardigan she was wearing, at the way she'd pulled it tight around her body, and she understood, suddenly and completely, what she'd been doing. She'd been holding on, not just to the cardigan, but to her grief, to her guilt, to a version of herself that was defined by loss. She'd been holding on so tightly that she'd closed herself off to everything else, to new friendships, to possibilities, to joy. She'd been so afraid of forgetting her mother that she'd forgotten how to live. That night, Claire carefully folded the cardigan. She held it to her face one last time, breathing in the scent that was barely there anymore, faded after 3 years of constant wear. And then she placed it in a memory box, along with her mother's favorite book and a photo of the two of them from Claire's college graduation. She didn't throw it away. She didn't erase the memory, but she let it rest. She opened her hands. The next morning, Claire woke up without the cardigan for the first time in 3 years. She felt naked at first, vulnerable, exposed. But as the day went on, she also felt something else. Lighter, like she could breathe a little deeper, like there was space inside her that hadn't been there before. It wasn't instant healing. Grief doesn't work that way. But it was a beginning. Over the following months, Claire started to make small changes. She said yes to a dinner invitation she would have declined. She took a pottery class she'd been thinking about for years. She laughed, really laughed at something funny, without immediately feeling guilty for experiencing joy. And here's what Claire discovered. Letting go of the cardigan didn't mean letting go of her mother. The love was still there. The memories were still there. But they had space to breathe now. They weren't suffocating her anymore. Claire learned that she could honor her mother's memory, not by staying frozen in grief, but by living the kind of full, open, courageous life her mother had always wanted for her. She learned that love doesn't require holding on so tight that it hurts. Love can exist in open hands. In fact, that's where it thrives. A year after putting the cardigan in the box, Claire met someone. David was kind and patient. And when she told him about her mother, about the cardigan, about the years she'd spent wrapped up in grief, he didn't judge her. He just listened. And slowly, carefully, Claire allowed herself to open up to the possibility of new love, new life, new beginnings. On what would have been her mother's 70th birthday, Claire went to the cemetery. She brought flowers, her mother's favorites, white roses, and she sat by the gravestone and talked out loud the way she used to. "I'm okay, Mom," she said. "I'm actually okay. And I know you'd be happy about that. I know you'd want me to be living, not just existing. So that's what I'm doing. I'm letting go. Not of you, never of you, but of the pain, of the guilt, of the need to hold everything, so tight that I can't feel anything else." The wind picked up slightly, rustling through the trees overhead, and Claire smiled. She could almost hear her mother's voice. "Open your hands, sweetheart. Open your hands and trust." Claire's story is just one story, but it's a story that echoes in so many of our lives. Maybe you're not holding on to a cardigan, but I'd be willing to bet there's something you're clutching so tightly that it's leaving marks on your soul. Maybe it's a relationship that ended years ago, but you keep replaying conversations, wondering what you could have done differently. Maybe it's a mistake you made, a decision you regret, and you've been punishing yourself ever since. Maybe it's a version of who you thought you'd be by now, the career you thought you'd have, the family you thought you'd build, the life you imagined. And you can't let go of the disappointment that reality looks different. Maybe it's control. We hold on to control like it's a life raft, convinced that if we just plan enough, worry enough, manage every detail, we can prevent pain. But control is an illusion, and the tighter we grip it, the more anxious and exhausted we become. Or maybe it's anger. Maybe someone hurt you, betrayed you, abandoned you, and you've been carrying that resentment like a stone in your pocket, pulling it out to examine it, to feel its weight, to remind yourself why you're justified in your bitterness. But here's the truth about anger and resentment. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. Holding on feels like strength. It feels like loyalty, like dedication, like proof that we care. But there's a difference between remembering and being imprisoned. There's a difference between honoring what was and refusing to accept what is. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't love enough. It doesn't mean you're giving up or moving on callously or erasing the past. Letting go means you're choosing to stop letting the past define your present. It means you're deciding that you deserve peace more than you deserve to be right. It means you're brave enough to open your hands and trust that what you need will come, even if it looks different than what you planned. Think about a river. Water doesn't cling, it flows. It moves around obstacles. It doesn't try to go back upstream. And because of that fluidity, because of that willingness to let go and keep moving, it has the power to carve canyons, to nourish life, to reflect the sky. You are not meant to be stagnant. You are not meant to carry everything forever. Some things are meant to be set down so that you have room to pick up what's next. I know it's scary. Letting go feels like free-falling sometimes. It feels like losing the last thread of connection to something or someone important. But here's what I've learned, and what Claire learned. You don't lose the love when you let go. You don't lose the lessons. You don't lose what truly mattered. You just stop, letting it control you. And in that space, in that open-handed, open-hearted space, you make room for healing, for growth, for new joy, for the life that's waiting for you on the other side of your grip. What would it feel like to put down the weight? Just for a moment, just to see what it's like to stand up straight, to breathe fully, to look ahead instead of behind. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to throw everything away or make dramatic declarations. Sometimes letting go is as simple as deciding today that you're going to stop rehearsing that painful conversation in your mind. Sometimes it's choosing to forgive, not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. Sometimes it's just loosening your grip, just a little, just enough to let the blood flow back into your fingers. So here we are at the end of Claire's story, but maybe at the beginning of yours. Because the truth is, we all have our cardigans. We all have the things we hold on to, long past their purpose. And we all have the power, the choice to open our hands. I want you to know that whatever you've been carrying, it's okay to put it down. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you disloyal or uncaring. It makes you human. It makes you wise. It makes you someone who understands that love and memory don't require suffering. They just require an open heart. If this story touched you, if Claire's journey resonated with something you're going through, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to give this video a like. It helps more people find these stories, and you never know whose life might be changed by hearing that they're not alone, that it's okay to let go. If you're new here, welcome to What Truly Matters. This is a space for stories that speak to the soul, for conversations about hope and healing, and the courage it takes to keep choosing life even when it's hard. I'd love for you to subscribe and join this community. We're here for each other, supporting one another through the messy, beautiful journey of being human. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes we don't realize we're ready to let go until someone gives us permission, until someone shows us it's possible. Be that person for someone else today. And please leave a comment below. Tell me, what is something you've been holding on to that it's time to release? Or maybe tell me about a time when letting go changed your life. I read every comment, and so does this. Community, your story matters. Your voice matters. Thank you for being here. Thank you for opening your heart to Claire's story, and for having the courage to look at your own. You're not alone in this. We're all learning to open our hands together. Before you go, I want to leave you with one final thought. Life is too short and too precious to spend it imprisoned by things that no longer serve you. You deserve to be free. You deserve to feel light. You deserve to walk into your future without dragging your past behind you like a weight. So, take a breath. Look at what you've been carrying, and maybe, just maybe, consider putting it down. Not forever, necessarily. Not erasing it, just resting it. Giving yourself permission to live without that particular weight today. The power to let go has been in your hands all along. You just have to be brave enough to open them. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of this journey. And you, what it truly matters to you.